Right now in Studio Q, I am joined by Marcus Mumford and Winston Marshall of Mumford Sons and Baaba Maal. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello,
Shad.
Hello.
Okay, Marcus, I'll start with you. How did you first cross paths with Baaba Maal?
We were introduced to Baaba by Johan from The Very Best, who's a DJ in that band, and he actually sort of encouraged us to all hang out, which we did, and then we got in the studio together and did a day's recording in London together, and we actually wrote "There Will Be Time" there, which is the first single off this Johannesburg mini album, and we had such a nice time that we thought we should do more together one day. And then when the South African tour came up, we decided to go into the studio on that tour,
Okay.
and record more.
So you guys actually met kind of going into the studio right away?
No, that's right.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
well, no, we'd met before then. Baaba came to our festival in Lewes, which is in the south of England, which we ran ourselves, and came and we met, and it was love at first sight, wasn't it, Baaba?
Yeah, it was really nice.
And then we decided to get in the studio together after that.
You were aware of his music at that point?
We
And
were, yeah. You can't
Yeah.
grow up in the UK at least without knowing about Baaba Maal's music. He's a legend.
What did you love about his music growing up, especially, your shared playing of guitar? What did you love about his
I
stuff?
don't think I fully investigated it until I went, or before I was going. Baaba invited us to go out to Senegal, and I was lucky enough to make the trip to his festival, and that's when I investigated it. And it's just, I mean, the music I saw there, it's not just Baaba's music, all the music that was on at the festival, which is from across West Africa, but mainly Senegalese. It's just alive. It's like the rhythms, you can't help but dance. And again, I guess it's centered more in rhythm than a lot of the music I'm used to. Not that, I mean, it all is, but just like I don't know, it just kind of
It must be
gets
so
you. It's
interesting when you see someone play similar instruments to you, but in a different way.
nice. Yeah.
Must be just kind of...
Well, actually, most of the instruments I'd never even seen. Like maybe I've heard them,
Yeah.
but like I could never picture what they were. And then when they had instruments, like I remember I was really impressed by Ibrahim, who doesn't play guitar anymore with
Yeah,
me, but
in my band,
he
yeah.
he had a Strat, and the way he was playing a Strat, like it was incredible. He was playing amazing like bass rhythms with like melodies that again I wouldn't have really heard of, and like there's crossover, like there's like. Some of the scales are similar, but they're played in so differently that it was just kind of. I was recording everything on my phone. I was just there, just trying to, and I've kept it all. Yeah.
Baaba, what about you? The flip side of this. When did you first encounter Mumford & Sons music, and what did you think of it?
Yeah, I get the chance to listen to them, but not a lot. I just discovered them when I came to Lewis. I think for me it's the best way to go into music is just to stand up and to watch people play. And I get the chance to see that when they was playing in Lewis, and I was listening to all the rhythms, all the melodies, and I was really fascinated by the banjo. I didn't expect to see the banjo inside of their performance. Mm-hmm. And then when I was listening to the melodies, I say, so this is so close to me, the melodies, the way they was singing, the way they was handling the concert. And I didn't know at that time we will have a plan to be collaborating, but
You saw similarities right away.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very, very similar.
I think the similarities, which we've talked about a bit, but earlier Marcus said earlier was that we have the same attitude coming into music. Like the music is pretty different, although there are similarities. But there's a kind of openness to collaborating and getting involved together and making music with each other. And the music comes from the same place, and with the same sort of, we want to do something really great, and that's kind of something that we shared in common, I think.
So you first hopped into the studio in London,
Yeah.
And then worked again together in Johannesburg. Was there something, Winston, that you had to do to establish a chemistry? I mean, when you're walking into the studio with somebody new, how do you get that chemistry going right away?
I think Johan was a massive part of that, because we kind of he was the guy we all knew, and he's really fun, mainly because he's like pretty drinking beer from as soon as he wakes up. We've painted him, every interview we've done about Johan, we just paint him as a total alcoholic, which I don't think he's a bit of that. He was a lubricant for the collaboration, and I think that was we were just really excited to get in the studio with Baaba and Johan, and I think that's what helps, If you go in a bit like, whatever. It's
But
not
when
really
there's a
very good.
genuine excitement, it
Yeah,
obviously
exactly.
kicks things off. So take us inside this place, the South African Broadcast Corporation studio. That's where you recorded the bulk of the EP. Marcus, take us inside there. What did it look like? What was the vibe in there?
It's a massive building with no windows and a bomb-proof barrier all the way around the outside. It's like a level 1 security building.
This does not sound like much of a vibe.
Which was no, it's a terrible vibe. It was not. We didn't pick it for its security capabilities, by the way. We just were looking for a studio in Johannesburg with a couple of different rooms and some gear already in it, and this came up as a place to record in. And we had no idea when we first got there that actually it was like recording in a World War II bunker. But I think there were benefits to it because every time you went in and out, it's like a high-level security building. It's so strange. You had to hand in all your electronics and go through like airport screening to get into the building. So it meant going out like a complete faff. It's like going to the airport and then having to leave again to go outside and go back through security every time. So we ended up just staying in the studio all day, every day. And we were doing like 14-hour days or something. So it meant that actually we were really productive because we were locked in a room. And there was no chance really for any kind of distraction because we had 2 rooms going simultaneously. So it was this big old like 70s building that was kind of pretty quirky and weird. And but we ended up, the first day was slightly frustrating because we struggled with gear a little bit and things weren't quite working. A lot of people worked really hard so that when we went in on the second day, everything worked in a way that we were really happy with. And we had 2 rooms simultaneously recording. So one was kind of an overdubs tracking room, and the other room was more of a live room where we had set up a full live band set up so we could all play all at once.
Well, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, no,
it was great.
No sitting around, right?
No, there was no wasted time basically. Yeah. Once we got everything working, it was really productive. So we ended up, writing in the studio and recording more than we thought we were going to. So it was pretty successful. Yeah.
Winston, how did that affect the process for you to be working long hours late into the night and kind of hunker down, almost literally, hunker down in this place? Yeah. How did that affect the vibe versus the Mumford & Sons recording process?
Well, it took some getting used to, and I probably the wrong person to ask that question to, because after the first day I was like going mad, ripping my hair out and being a bit eggy to everyone. But I think what was more like remarkable is that we're used to being the 4 of us in the studio and with a producer and sometimes other, horns or strings. But this time there was 4 artists. There was 15 of us or something, right? So there's so many creative minds in there at it that again, everyone had constantly something new to give, and that kept us all ticking along. And every time, like, Baaba would be napping next door, then get up, have a glass of wine, come in, smash out an amazing vocal after, and that would make us want to up our game and
so
do something
inspiration
better.
kept feeding.
Yeah, just kind of circulating.
What had you ripping your hair out though in the first?
Nothing worked at all. It was like, I don't think it'd been used as a studio for like 20 years maybe. I felt like that, and thanks to Beth, our management, and Dan Gretsch, who was kind of engineering it, they pulled it through. They did an all-nighter after the first day, and we're like, right, we're going to sort this out. Yeah. So when we came in the second day, it was.
But at the same time, the spirit of the music was there. You can feel it,
Yeah.
Do you have a memory that sticks out for you, Baaba, as far as that whole recording process? Do you have a particular memory that sticks out for you?
A lot of memories. A lot of memories. But what comes up to me is that last night. I think that last night was really, really intense. Yeah. When you was guys when you was working on the song, the French song, Yeah. And then when we came in, it was the light was quite like similar to this, very dark, and the music was down there. It was really very serious, and this is something that I really can't forget about, because everything was talking to me. And then at that time I say, yes, we got it. We got now the what we was looking for to make.
Yeah. We hear at least 3 different languages on this album, right? Maybe there's more.
I think there's 4.
Yeah.
I think there's English, French, Chichewa, which is Malawian language, which Eso from The Very Best sings in. And then you sang in...
I sing in 2 languages.
2 languages, yeah.
Which are...
Wolof and Pular.
So with all those languages going on, tell me about the songwriting process. Like lyrically, how did you guys find common ground, or what lyrical themes did you say, let's tackle these? I'll start with you, maybe, Baaba.
Yeah, we did talk about the lyrics, what we were singing, because when we did There Will Be Time, just when Ben went onto the chorus and I did this first part, Head to Me Haaland, and then you asked me what I was singing about. I think we also singing the same thing. We're talking about the same subjects that we're developing from different angles. I talk about my point of view from an African, and which is sometimes it's love, it's the people together, it's the world, but we're talking the same thing.
Yeah, what was that like collaborating across languages?
Well, it was cool because there was an element of mystery to it, which is sometimes quite helpful when it comes to lyrics. Because if anything's too on the nose, I tend to go off it if it's too obvious what the lyric is about. So we would ask, like I remember with There Will Be Time, we asked Baaba what he was singing about in the first verse. He told us, and we went away and then wrote more lyrics for our verses, having been inspired by what his were about. And then kind of forgot about them and wrote an extra verse, and that verse then inspired Baaba's next verse.
Next
so
verse,
it was, again, it was like self-perpetuating inspiration because we were constantly being inspired by little things that other people were doing, and that's much better than just hearing an English verse over and over again and then trying to think of something. You know, it would be constantly changing and shifting, and it would give you new ideas all the time. So it was a pretty dynamic process of writing, I think.
Baaba, how do you choose what language to sing in? Is it the emotion of the lyric?
Emotion.
Yeah,
emotion. When just the notes and the harmonies just comes out, something, it take me somewhere. It take me into something that I want to say. This is how I react to music. The music, the instruments are talking to me. You know, I have some ideas, things I want to talk about this in this year or the next year, but it's mostly the music who just guide me to what I should sing about.
Baaba's he's like a jazz saxophonist or something, because his improvisation on his vocal is unbelievable. So a lot of the time we'd record just like 2 or 3 takes of Baaba just doing ad-lib melodies and singing whatever he wanted, and a lot of the time we'd keep those, and sometimes it was just the first take, and he'll always go a note higher than you think he can. and that always gets you like that extra like elated, you know, kind of emotion, which is fun to work with, definitely.
Winston, what's the response been like playing this music live?
It's been pretty great, actually. There'll Be Time, which has been out a bit longer, is now like some people are singing along, which has been great. And Si Tu Veux, which is the kind of the one with the most languages within one song, I think. That's probably got 4 languages, right? He's singing in Pula and Wolof and that?
And Wolof and French.
Yeah, and French and English. And that was, we struggled, well, we did it in Paris and Amsterdam 2 weeks ago, but it was a bit shoddy, I think, in Quebec City. But last night in Hamilton, it was on the money. Ottawa.
Locked in?
Excuse me, Ottawa. It was on the money. Yeah, it was locked in. It's feeling great.
Nice. So this improvisation, Baaba, is that just unique to you, or is there roots in Senegalese music as far as improvisation?
Yeah, we call ourselves the modern griots. The modern griots are these families of musicians who, just according to what happened in the society, just jump in the middle of the circle and want to talk to people, to educate them, to talk about reality, and to bring some messages. So the way you're gonna give the messages depends on who's there and how big is the space that affect on the voice, you know, and how you want the message to arrive to people. So the intensity, so you improvise. You have to go with your feeling.
Marcus, whenever Western musicians work with African styles, the word appropriation gets thrown around. How mindful were you of those conversations we've heard in the past around Graceland, for example, or Vampire Weekend?
Yeah, we didn't really think about it like that. I think our generation's slightly, well, I think we certainly were slightly over all that. We just didn't think about it, honestly. We just went in being fans of Baaba's music, being fans of the very best music, being fans of Beatenberg's music. And it was a musical process and not really anything else. It wasn't a social one. It wasn't a political one. We were just doing it for the love of music. So for us, it was pretty straightforward. And people were always going to say stuff, and we really couldn't care less what people say, because it was a real pure creative and collaborative process that we really enjoyed, and doesn't make us something different to what we already were. It just came from a place of sort of joy, really. Like, we were all fans of these people before we got in the studio together, and yeah, it was wicked.
Baaba, you have deep roots in Senegalese music, but you also have a long history of collaborating across cultures. How do you approach cross-cultural musical collaborations? Like, does it start with relationship, like personal relationship, or does it start with kind of musical appreciation for what another
I think
artist
it's a
is
musical appreciation.
Yeah.
Because when I listen to music in general all over the world, I see connection between what I did grow up with and my heritage, like an African musician, and the style of music we play down there. They have some connection with several other style of music in the world. So I look really carefully about that to see where these musics can come together and be just something that have the same roots, you know. Like when I listen to Celtic music, I know that there is a connection with African music, with the music for the Fulanis, the tribe I come from. And also come back after
Sorry,
that.
can you say that again? The connection between Celtic music and
African music, the Fulanis music,
Oh, okay.
the Fulani music, the nomadic people in Africa. But at the same time, also the second level will be the personality of the people. If we think the same thing, if we react the same way to life, to in general, and to music in particular, I think it makes it much more easier for me to collaborate.
Is that part of the fun for you, spotting these connections between different sounds?
Yeah.
Interesting. So, Marcus, how do you see this collaboration affecting Mumford & Sons going forward? Or will the next sound be something completely different, maybe?
Yeah, I hope it's something completely different, because we are quite fast moving as a band in terms of our tastes and also our ambitions to make lots of different types of music. You know, we're not purists, and a lot of my favorite bands are purists and do sort of one thing in different ways again and again. We want to do lots of different things once, and then maybe, you know, and use them as an education in music. We feel like we're just learning all the time, and we don't have to be, or we don't have to consider ourselves like professionals in that we're being paid to do one type of thing. We can consider ourselves kind of like explorers in music. You know, we're constantly learning, and we're of a generation where music's never been so accessible. Like, you can listen to a Senegalese band on the internet easier than you ever could before. Or, you know, like, I was looking up like Rajasthani folk music on the internet last week because I want to do more of that, because we did an EP in India a few years ago. So, you know, I think with the accessibility of music as it is now, our generation doesn't have to pick and choose. You know, and pick one side to be sort of tribal towards. We can take inspiration from lots of different types of, and keep our ears open and our eyes open, and see things that we enjoy within lots of different types of music, and not worry about being purist.
I wondered about you lyrically. Musically, you guys seem to be going in different directions with each record, but lyrically, are you inspired by place, or is it mainly introspective?
That's a really good question. I think it's both. I think, you know, we constantly talk about the fact that we're just inspired by whatever's going on in our lives, and since we're in lots of different places, that inevitably will be inspired by different places. But it's all of what we write, we have to feel first. We can't really just conjure emotion. We have to experience it and then write about it. But yeah, place is often helpful in lyrics to set a scene. So we do that quite a lot. On the last record, we did that a bit more. Winston's really good at that lyrically. I'm less good at it. I'm good at generalizations. But yeah, I think lyrically we want to keep exploring.
Winston, how sensitive are you to place as a writer and as a performer? Like, when you're on stage, do you say, "Oh, this place has a very different vibe than, you know, the last spot we were on tour"?
Certainly, performing as a band, we feel. You can tell we're in a different country. Like, North American crowds are completely different to European crowds. And then, you know, even within England, if you're playing in Liverpool, that's different to London. You can feel that very immediately. I think with writing, although there are some amazing songs about places, I don't think we've done any songs about a place. Like Marcus said, it's like setting a scene, and you can be inspired by a place, certainly. But
mainly it's still coming from your lives.
Yeah,
as opposed to the places. Before we wrap up here, I do want to ask you a little bit more about the other people involved with this project. What can you tell us, Baaba, about Beatenberg?
It was a discovery for me because I didn't know them before I went to South Africa. I was upstairs we had this dressing room far away from the stage, and I was listening, watching them play, actually. And then suddenly I said, I have to go to get closer to listen to these guys because they're very young, but they're very diverse for me. And I, for a band from South Africa, I will have in the mind they will play this particular kind of type of music, even if they are really inspired by the Black African music in South Africa. You can't put them just in a box. But when I came to near their concert, it was so diverse. I can hear reggae music, hip hop, all this kind of stuff, style that travel all over the world. It was a really good discovery for me.
And finally, Marcus, maybe I'll ask you some more about the very best besides the drinking. What else?
Can't think of much else, actually. So we first met them like 7 years ago in Australia on this touring festival that really inspired our festivals, actually called Laneway, where you would play one weekend and then travel together and do shows during the week and then play another weekend in a different town, but it would be the same lineup of artists. So it ends up feeling like a touring festival. So we did, a few weeks in Australia with the very best and would be on early morning flights together, feeling the effects of the night before, and became really good friends with them as a result. And Johan, who lives in the UK, and Essor, who lives in Malawi, were the two guys that were on the road at that time. And then they added two guys called Shad and Jati, who are incredible musicians. Shad's from London, Jati's from LA. And really just warm-hearted, kindred spirits, but musically really exciting because they incorporate a lot of the kind of acoustic or kind of rock elements that we love, but they also do it with a house DJ, basically. So, and Johan's a great producer too, so he was really key to the whole process happening.
Great. I think we're just going to wrap up here. I'll just ask you the same question I asked Marcus earlier. How do you see this collaboration affecting you musically going forward, Baaba?
Yeah, I was saying to some of my friends that this is a very good opportunity for African music, because we need these collaborations because for me, I'm someone who really like to collaborate. I always learn things from people I'm collaborating with, but at the same time, I'm aware that it will open some doors for the people behind me, for other musicians on the continent, because we need these collaborations to put African music in certain places that we never get the chance to be without wiping up our originality and all this kind of stuff. It's just a collaboration. And I think it's really also, because what I really appreciate in these guys is writing songs is something, but at the same time, jumping on the stage is a different thing. And I like stage is something really important for me. I see Marcus, for example, when he jump on the stage, I can see him enjoying so much to be there, to be in front of people communicating. And that's something really, really African too. It's not just mechanical, but it's also something coming from the heart.
Back to, you were saying the connection you heard right away in their music when you saw them perform.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Shad.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.